What is something that's influenced you and your art that you've never got to talk about?
Probably my friends, and the way them playing their music around me as well has definitely kind of influenced my sound and what I want to make. Because at the end of the day, I do want to kind of like make something that my friends like. So a lot of the music and artists that they play definitely influences my music a lot. That usually just to make something that I wouldn't otherwise or wouldn't make myself if I hadn't have been around that sort of environment. So yeah, definitely listening to some of what my friends listen to anyway. Then not necessarily replicate the sound, but implement stuff like components of that into it. Definitely.
Yeah, so do you think that like helps with like your versatility and being able to like...
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I can make close to any genre. Yeah, it definitely helps kind of implement different styles and different genres at the end of the day, yeah.
When people discover you and your music, what is the first thing you'd want them to think?
How the fuck is this kid only 18? I think that's always like a bit of a shock factor. The fact that I've been doing it for so long, since I was 13, 14, I want there to be a bit of a shock factor there with what I'm making. Especially with my newer sort of stuff like Jailhouse, where I'm talking about more kind of, like, I wouldn't say controversial, but more sort of serious subject matter and serious topics, but also kind of showcasing that I'm able to have fun on tracks like Mimosa and Nuisance, and I can just make hard shit as well.
Yeah, for sure. Starting from such a young age, how have you felt your music and process change over the years?
I think being 13 and starting out, it was definitely like, I'm going to start making what I listen to. I'm going to start making, because I got very inspired by like XXXTentacion and Ski Master Slump God and NASCAR Outlaw at a very sort of young age. So always trying to make that really aggressive sort of very homegrown distorted sort of sound. But then as growing older, I sort of started to find my sound. And as obviously growing up, you kind of become a different person, you become an adult, you mature, and then you sort of find who you are more and how you want to represent that through your art. So I think my process from kind of just finding an X-type beat on YouTube and rapping over it to actually teaching myself how to produce, how to use my DAW in a way where I can utilize it to make the best sound I can has definitely kind of changed over time, and now I can be more creative with it and be more sort of versatile with my sound compared to what I was, which I definitely think is the main thing.
How have you felt the industry change around you, starting so young?
I think when I started, it was all very SoundCloud era. It was very much like the priority was being SoundCloud viral and posting tracks, uploading tracks as much as you can there and just pumping content out, full-length songs out on SoundCloud with a very sort of finding a niche there. But I think now it's all become very sort of focused on TikTok and focused on your short form content where you can expand your audience within like 15 seconds, like an elevator pitch, but for social media kind of. And I feel like it's to the point now where it's also very kind of like Spotify and Apple Music, like editorial priorities for playlists and growing your image on there rather than just being internet famous kind of thing.
Even following up with that as well, do you feel trapped by that sort of current system and like the streaming and algorithms sort of thing?
I don't feel necessarily trapped by it, but I think it's important to utilize those tools in a way where you can expand your audience. It's not necessarily a restriction, but it's a tool that if used in the right way, you can capitalize on your growing your audience in a way which is you're getting like a loyal fan base and getting a consistent fan base. And I think TikTok helps so much with that now, especially from an industry standpoint. Like, it's so important to always have your name in the loop. And TikTok and Instagram Reels are two of the most commonly used forms of short content. So yeah, just constantly having your name in circulation, even through those editorial playlists, is so important.
What was it like to win Triple J on Earth High? Did it affect your music in any way?
The two songs I was a finalist off were very sort of samey from each other. I think Nuisance was very just kind of hard rap, just me being... It was a good kind of representation of me just being an immature little kid, not really saying anything too deep or nothing too kind of intelligent. It was more just rapping for the sake of rapping, as so is Mimosa. From an Australian standpoint, that's how they want to portray me, as like this kind of reckless little black kid just kind of rapping for the sake of rapping. But then when I came out with Jailhouse, I feel like for this year's competition, I feel like they were almost... I wouldn't say they're not threatened by the subject matter, but they don't like me kind of compromising an image they've already portrayed. So I think from an industry standpoint, I love being a finalist for that. It was a great experience and it helped me grow my audience a lot. But I think being a finalist that young, before I'd really found what my sound is and how I want to go about my career, I think to a degree, I wouldn't say it was damaging, but I think it might have impacted it in a way where it might have been a bit restricting, kind of conforming to that sort of sound that they want from me.
What is your most prized possession or prized possession in your room if you don't have one?
Has to be my laptop, bro. Like, that's a gold mine for me. Like, that's, yeah, anything on my laptop, because I make all my music on my laptop. I just take it everywhere with me. Like, yeah, there's so much of myself that I've put out into my music on that device that I can't ever replace if lost. So yeah, I have to say my laptop.
You already mentioned your idols earlier, about like when you were growing up, when you started making music. Who were some of your idols?
The first rap album I ever listened to was Speaker Boss to Love Below by Outkast. Outkast was definitely the first kind of exposure I had to any sort of hip hop. But I think the one album that has made me start rapping was definitely Damn by Kendrick Lamar. That's when I first heard DNA, and I heard that the flow he was doing on that, I was like, damn, I want to do this. And I think that kind of triggered something in me to be able to just push myself to kind of achieve that sort of sound and achieve that sort of like just that good feeling of just going hard on a beat.
How do you feel about like the idea of idolization and people being like obsessed?
I think slowly becoming more involved with the industry aspect of it and being around more people that I looked up to starting music, especially in our kind of music scene. I think people tend to forget that our idols are still human beings. Like, we breathe the same air, we do the same things damn near every day that any other person would do. So I think it's good to get inspiration from our idols, but I don't think... Yeah, it's a tricky one because I believe that everybody is still human at the end of the day.
How often do you integrate your day-to-day life into your music and art?
Because I'm still at school at the moment, I'm just... In a lot of my classes, I still just make beats because I can't be asked kind of doing the work. But yeah, I do... Like, every day, I'm always making music. There's not a single day that goes by without me at least making beats or writing music or recording. Like, there's always a part of the process in each day, for sure.
What other art forms outside of music are you interested in?
I love film. Like, I love the practical aspect of film, especially editing. Like, I love being able to it's kind of like the same as producing music in a way. It's like getting what seems to be random pieces of a puzzle and put them together to create something beautiful. Like, that's the idea of that for me. Is so it draws me in. It definitely just being able to create any sort of form of art, like even painting or drawing, might not be too good at it, but definitely just being able to, just the process of creating is so eye-opening to me, and it draws me in for sure.
What piece of art outside of music are you most proud to have created or been a part of?
My dad was a dot painter for a lot of kind of my childhood. So definitely contributing to a lot of those paintings, those drawings, those templates that he used for his art. Probably those are the ones I'm most proud of for sure.
Definitely.
A lot of my culture is in there too, and I know those times that I spent with my father, like definitely, it was exposing me to what our culture is. Living so far away from where I'm from, I think just even having that little piece of it was so important, and I'll always kind of treasure that.
Do you have any of like his work like at your house?
Yeah, there's so much.
Do you have like a favourite piece?
There's this one piece he did, huge painting of a tree, but it's all within it. There's so many different parts that represent kind of our community. So it's hard to explain, but yeah, that piece means a lot because it is a really kind of beautiful representation of where I'm from.
What's an art form or creative process you've always wanted to try?
Probably fashion design. That's always been one that's always really interested me, and I'd love to start kind of designing my own. If I ever get to my own merch or something where I'd be happy to just rock every day. That would be something really cool.
Yeah. Like, what do you think the best live show you've ever been to is?
Kendrick Lamar, without a doubt. That I went to his Perth show last year. Easily the best live concert I've ever seen, and I've been to a fair few at stadium gigs and everything, but that show for me was so inspiring, especially because he's a huge inspiration for me and my art as well.
What would you say like your favourite show that you've been to in like the underground scene locally would have been?
I have to say the Loza, the Chosen One show, that was crazy. Like, all the artists killed it that day, and when I went up for my set as well, I had a huge crowd there, and yeah, everybody helped fuck with the vibe, and I love the fact that that more sort of underground kind of opium sound is becoming a well-known sound and a more listened to sound in Perth, especially. That whole scene is so sick, and I love that everybody showed out for it.
If you could remove or change one thing from the music industry, what would it be?
If I could change it, it would be that Spotify pays its artists more, for sure. I think the fact that independent artists can reach such a wide audience without the backing of a label or any sort of publishing deal needs to be more of an option for artists to actually make a living off it. So yeah, if there was one thing I could definitely say is Spotify paying their artists more, for sure.
Who do you think we should interview next? It can be anyone.
Loza and Caleb, 100%.
100%. We got to get them.
Yeah.
Loza and Caleb got to come down.
100%.
Or I got to come to Perth.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of them. Who deserves a shout out?
All the Goonie boys. Goonie Records, Ducky, Dawn, Goon, Cloud District, Wesley Black. Yeah, all those boys. Shall see. Go listen to my EP dropping September 1st. Thanks for having me.